Have you ever been thrown under the bus, as they say, as a cliche, for a decision that, of course, everyone agreed on in the meeting, and then you were the one to blame? How much time and energy could you have saved if your meetings were finally productive, with everyone aligned and, of course, prepared? In today's episode, I'm revealing real world strategies that successful project managers use to navigate. I'll tell you, and I'm going to be honest with you to the core of my heart, these frustrating challenges. But I must warn you, these strategies don't work overnight. This is not a quick fix. This is not something that will happen immediately. You'll need to apply these consistently to meet your project team, stakeholders, and clients where they are. And as I always say, pull them up with you. This episode is going to cover, as a project manager, what is your least favorite thing you do as part of being a project manager. Now, let's get into the content today. Point number one, setting an agenda. But someone asked you, what are we talking about? I don't know about you, family. I love to share a quick story here is I remember when the first time this happened, I was super excited, like every new project manager is. And I followed the proper protocols. I scheduled the meeting. I put the meeting agenda in the meeting. I pinged people and said, hey, I just want to let you guys know we're going to be meeting and I'm excited. Want to make sure that we got everything aligned. No problem. The meeting is getting ready to start in a couple hours. So I have people that jump on. And the first question that someone asked is, what are we talking about? And my frustration the look on my face kind of said everything that I didn't even have to open my mouth for a minute or two because people were like, didn't you check the agenda? But a lot of times what happens, family, despite how you can send out a well-structured agenda ahead of time, some participants may arrive unprepared or even unaware of the meeting purposes. So instead of us just talking about the frustrations, because you know what we like to do here is, yes, we want to talk about the problems. Yes, we want to talk about these frustrations, but we want to also talk about how do we go about solving some of these frustrations on this journey to this thing that I love, that I hope you fall in love with, called project management. So here's 2 pro tips. Calendar attachment. When you send an agenda as a calendar attachment with the meeting invite. Number 2, meeting reminders. Include key topics in meeting reminders as well as summary emails. That was something that I picked up on later. I was like, okay, let me send an email to make sure that this person is aware of, or I should say this team is aware of what we're going to be discussing. And also another key tip, as I was thinking of this, I would literally have if I'm virtual, I'll have that showing on the screen as soon as everybody is getting on. I'm sharing my screen with the agenda. Or if we're in person, I'll use the TV and have the agenda up there as well. So now we're not asking those interesting questions. I'll use that choice of context of what are we talking about. Point number 2, scheduling meetings for team members who no show. Whew. Okay, I'm gonna take my time with this one because this is one of those things, family, where if I don't watch myself, I'm gonna get in my own way. So I'm gonna take my time and slow this thing down. When you get in this thing called project management, you're going to have project team members ask you to schedule a meeting, which is your job. But the frustrating thing about this is what happens when they don't attend and you're pinging them in chat and you're emailing them and asking them, and even somebody that's exceptional, you pick up the phone and you give them a call and say, hey, you sure you're going to be at this meeting? I scheduled this meeting for you because you don't know if you haven't done this yet. You will, if you haven't experienced this yet, excuse me, you will. And when you're at the meeting and everyone is looking at you like, okay, we're here. We understand the agenda finally. Where's the person, where's this subject matter expert that's supposed to be coming in and talking about some of these things? So what I've learned is three pro tips. Participants availability. Confirm availability of all participants before scheduling. Number two, this is one of my favorite strategies, which I know that I've had some project team members that get frustrated with me, but hey, I'm meeting an outcome, which is we need to meet. They may have a meeting, I'll book on top of that meeting. And really, it's an overbooking strategy. So consider overbooking the time slightly for potential no-shows. And one of my favorites, this is one of the things I love about Teams, if you leverage Teams or, of course, Zoom and all these other platforms, is that, hey, I'll record the meeting. And a bonus tip onto that as well. I've also realized you need to connect with your project team members and ensure that who you're setting the meeting up with, that you guys have an understanding. What's the concept? What are the outcomes that you're looking to extract from the meeting? In case they're a no-show, that you can drive the meeting. And it's going to be uncomfortable. It's probably not going to be the best meeting, but it's better than you sitting there on a call or on a video and the subject matter expert didn't show up. Point number three, booking meetings for multiple people across companies and time zones. Coordinating schedules, like I always said, family, we are in a global economy. And you may have someone that's and I'll use this example, you may have someone that's in the UK, you may have someone that's in Australia, and then you got a resource in the States. And just coordinating these schedules across different time zones and companies can be extremely difficult, especially when you're trying to show favoritism, aka accommodate everyone's availability. Here's my three pro tips. Utilize scheduling tools like Doodle or Microsoft Teams to coordinate availability. One thing about Microsoft Teams, there's a piece in there. I may have to do that for you guys one day just to show you a visual of where you can set the time zone, so you won't even get confused, so you'll know what the time is. And then, of course, plan ahead. You know what we talk about here. If you plan to fail, then if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So schedule meetings in advance to ensure smooth coordination. And then the final thing is share recaps and circulate the meeting recaps for attendees managing in different time zones. Point number four. If you can't see, I'm on a meeting run right now. So rebooking a meeting when a key person cancels on a short notice. Ooh. Yeah, I understand things come up. I understand life happens. But when you are on the call and you're sitting there and they send you a message and say, hey, could you cancel this meeting? And then they disappear and don't give you what's the reason, as well as, hey, what's the date we can reschedule? So two of the pro tips that I want to recommend is always have a backup date in mind during scheduling. So I would lead like this. I would say, okay, if the meeting is scheduled for Friday, I would talk to my stakeholder and say, hey, if anything was to happen or we had to make any adjustment, what would be the next best date? And they'll give you a date and you have that already ready. So when they accidentally disappear, that you can reschedule that meeting. And then, of course, ensuring that you always sending out meeting minutes, send detailed minutes out to keep everyone informed. Point number five, proving that the client is the cause of a project delay. Listen, clients may sometimes delay a project, but refuse to take a responsibility. And of course, where do you think this blame is going to go? This blame is going to go on you and the project team. So, three pro tips I want to recommend is track clients' response times. Maintain a detailed project log to monitor client responses. You guys are going to get so tired of me saying this, and it's probably someone already probably beating me to it as you're listening to today's episode. But documentation beats what? Documentation beats conversation. So document conversations, delays, use project management tools to record delays caused by client inaction. And then the final tip, present facts professionally. Now, I want to park here parenthetically, family, because one of the biggest things is when a client does, let's say, create a project delay, you have to still be professional about how you present this. And so instead of leading with emotion, you want to lead with facts. That's why it's important to have a detailed project log. So create a professional presentation and document and show the document delays when necessary. Point number 6, handling a stakeholder who regularly misses meeting but expects to be informed. Message. Anytime I say message, if you're new to the episode, if you're new to even listening to me, message is basically saying this is something you want to pay attention to. This is something where you want to lock in. I don't care what you're doing, but this is where you want to focus at. This is a special pro tip. And the reason why, or I should say frustration with the pro tip, is because there's a tendency where you will see stakeholders that will be frustrated and create chaos of saying, hey, what happened at that meeting? And you're like, well, you were on the invite. Well, that's what you're probably thinking. Well, I'll be transparent. That's what I'm thinking. And you're not constantly showing up. And this is not just one or twice, it's frequent, but they still want to be updated. And this can create huge communication gaps and misunderstanding. The reason why a lot of the projects that break down is due to communication gaps. So here's my pro tips. Record meetings. Ensure all meetings are recording for reference and sharing. You want to summarize key decisions. You see, I didn't say summarize key choices. No. Decisions are meaning that this is something we agreed on. I'll create you a concise summary of key decision made during the meeting. I'll even take it a step further. I would recommend putting it in your share file or your SharePoint or whatever cloud documentation that you have. Platform that you leverage, because now you have record of it, and you can send them a link for them to go. And then again, follow up with stakeholders. Reach out to stakeholders individually for critical input or feedback. Point number 7, being blamed for a decision that was agreed upon, but the stakeholder forgot. Oh boy. This has happened to me, family. I remember I was leading a project. We made a decision collectively, the project team, the stakeholder, we were all aligned. I documented in my favorite document thing, which is RAID log, risk, action items, issues, and decisions. I documented everybody that was there, what the decision was, and when the decision was going to actually be implemented. And I went on about my day. I sent the link out to the team. I made sure it was a private link in which basically only that team could have access to. And I was able to see if anybody clicked on the link or tried to make a download of it. I had full visibility there. So I was ensuring security and safety. So here's 3 pro tips. Send detailed meeting minutes out. Include action items and key decisions again. Get confirmation via email. Ask stakeholders to confirm action items via email for accountability. Another recommendation I would recommend regarding email, I would put a read and deliver receipt, especially on key decisions, because what will happen is somebody will say, well, I never got that email. You'll have proof of it, because we know what documentation beats conversation. And maintain a detailed records. Keep records to refer back to in these cases. This is why I talk about a RAID law. Scheduling meetings for team members who are no show. As I talked about earlier, we talked about stakeholders. Now we're talking about no shows. Same approach, confirm availability, overbook time, and of course, record meetings. And I don't know why. Let's move on to the bonus. So first bonus is addressing conflict priorities among project team members. One of the biggest challenges that I've seen in this thing called project management is project managers sometimes have a challenge of conflict. I'm going to let you know you're going to have a lot of conflict on projects, and it's not a bad thing. It's not like it's a negative endeavor where conflict is happening. There may be 2 people having a professional conversation and they're just going back and forth, and you need to understand how to address that. And so you want to ensure that here's 3 points. Share priorities. Team members discuss and share priorities. Number two, establish a common goal and create a set of common goals for alignment. And then, of course, my favorite document, when it's used properly, which is a RACI matrix. A RACI matrix is not used for everything, but there's certain, this artifact is very powerful when you're speaking more from a high level instead of really providing a detail, and you're boiling it down to the, let's say you have a milestone and you're putting all the tasks in the that's associated with the milestone, and you're putting it out in your race. You shouldn't be doing that. It should be at a very high level. My last and final bonus: dealing with team members who resist using project management tools. Some team members may resist adopting to project management tools. You have to keep in mind, family, a lot of people do not like change, and because they do not like change, they don't want to make that adjustment. So what you want to do is provide training, highlighting the benefits of using the project management tool, AKA also known as whistling it for them so they have a better understanding. Offering support, I would recommend doing one-on-one support versus a group support if they need it. And then task updates, mandatory for team members to actually update. Well, family, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, listen, that just simply means Ed. You know my motto, you know my slogan. I'm gone.